Hi, greetings everyone. I'm Deborah Nelson and I'll be covering chapter 20 with you guys today. I have a PowerPoint presentation for you guys to access covering all the key points. I hope it's useful for your future if you need to, just reference some key information in reference to the broadband and home networks topic. I hope it's very clear and detailed and broken down for you guys. I kind of wanted to develop a presentation that will allow you to read it even without the video and still gain a bit of knowledge. So as I mentioned, chapter 20, the broadband and home networks. Just want to go to the next slide, the overview of what I'll be discussing. I'll go over the introduction of the chapter so we can all have a warm and fuzzy of what topics we'll be covering today. The penetration rates for broadband, high-speed connectivity, wireless home networks, delivering services, residential gateways, and broadband plan. These topics are all great, and I found a great interest in reading the importance of broadband and home networks. We tend to use things like the World Wide Web, but we never necessarily go into great detail about it. We never think about who was the guy who actually established the World Wide Web. And as we go into the next slide, the introduction slide, that was my first key point. I wanted to take time to discuss Tim Berners-Lee. He's the guy that is credited for establishing the World Wide Web, something that we use every day, something that we use to even access this video, www.youtube, www.liberty. We use it every day. It's important, it's ingrained in our daily lifestyles, and that was mentioned in the introduction. I thought it was a great way to start the chapter because I think we overlook that. It's something that we have ingrained in our lifestyle, but have we really noticed that? Have we noticed that we intertwine the internet with our daily life, everything that we do? I like the quotations that were used in the chapter. It says, anyone who has lost track of time when using a computer knows the propensity to dream, the urge to make dreams come true, and a tendency to miss lunch. I thought this was a great quote to start off the chapter with because it pretty much, it touches on what I just mentioned. Anyone has lost track of time, you're probably, utilizing the urge of the usage of the internet, the World Wide Web. So we tend to do things and not really know that our habits are actually contributing to a bigger picture. The use of the internet is not only used for schoolwork, it's used for our businesses. For you entrepreneurs out there, technology is major. The internet, the World Wide Web is huge. Everybody is able to share information with one another through the World Wide Web. That's amazing in every aspect of our life, even for doctors or for scheduling appointments, for our military. Everything is done through the World Wide Web. But the World Wide Web is just a small impact, okay? A small internet impact. The internet is used for every aspect, okay? Sharing information. The internet is awesome. Simply stated, we can share photos, we can share videos, we can have teleconferences, we can have group conferences as far as school is concerned. You can share information with your family. You can feel like you're face to face with your family through the internet. That is major. You can do business. You can do personal hobbies, personal gains as far as research, increasing your knowledge. And you can also use it for possibly ministry. We use it to, increase followers. We can minister through the internet using video, such as what's our favorite right now? Periscope live broadcast streaming. That is awesome. Right now, I could be on Periscope and you guys could be watching me live. That is major. The internet has a major impact on us right now. So what exactly is broadband? Well, broadband is actually describe as high-speed internet. You don't just want internet, you want high-speed internet. You want what I'm saying right now to reach you in a matter of seconds. In order to get that, it has to be used through broadband. Next slide. As we discussed the definition, high-speed internet. So what is high speed? You know, it's interesting because what may seem high speed to us may not necessarily be high speed to someone else in a different country. So I actually identified a key point I thought was pretty cool, how the FCC, which are also known as an organization within the United States, they consider broadband speeds that are greater than or equal to megabytes per second downloads and 1 megabytes per second uploads to be considered high speed. I've also identified what Organization for Economic considers high speed, which is actually 256 kilobytes per second is actually pretty slow, but they consider that high speed internet. So it really depends on where you are geographically and your access to broadband and what form of broadband you have access to, which we'll get into later on. The International Telecommunication Union, their connection speeds of between 1 and 2.0 megabytes. You know, they consider that high speed. So it kind of depends on where you are geographically, depending on what's considered fast. Depending on their access to resources and their access to the types of broadband will determine how fast internet connection you can receive. Next slide. Increasing penetration rates. So it's definitely been a high increase of penetration rates over the years. And for anyone that's wondering, what exactly is penetration rates? Well, it's those who are subscribing to actually use the broadband internet subscriptions that want access to the internet. We've seen increases of over 70%. 6 countries such as Australia, Denmark, Finland, Korea, Japan, and Sweden, they're exceeding the 100% penetration mark that they've set. The reasons that we're seeing such a high increase in penetration rates is simply because of the increase of the use of mobile devices, such as tablets and smartphones. They require a lot of data, and these devices are being generated and they're being developed. They're actually being, created bigger and better, and children as small as 12 years old are no longer carrying around tablets or notepads. They're using tablets. So not only are we thinking about the increase of adults increasing their mobile devices, getting a secondary smartphone for their business or for work to separate their calls, or getting a tablet or getting a laptop. Now you're looking into the age group difference, the 12-year-olds, the 13-year-olds that are in middle school that have to adjust to the time, the technology increase in our society, the requirements to be technologically savvy. They're requiring these devices to be purchased, and they're being used. Children are learning from tablets, and they're learning from smartphones as well. There's no longer limited to just the adults. So as we continue to see an increase in our children using more technology and mobile devices and things, you also see an increase in data usage. So I thought that was pretty cool and pretty interesting. Just thinking that we now have to consider children in our percentage in our data increase. That's awesome. I remember back when I was younger, it was just notebooks and workbooks, pencils and paper. And now I have a niece that's 13 years old that's wanting an iPad for Christmas already. And I'm just like, awesome. So I thought that was pretty cool. Then we go into, not only our penetration rates increasing, but also the internet connection speeds. People are wanting faster connection speeds. In order to do that, service providers have to be able to handle this demand. The reason being, the connection speeds are being required because more people are wanting to do voice over internet protocol abilities, also known as VoIP, internet protocol, television, interactive gaming, and that new approach that's now established is that always on approach. I know for me, my phone, my tablet, my laptop is always on. When I'm out, it's always on because I'm conducting business, I'm conducting work, I'm being contacted from the actual business that I work for, which is the military, and I have my outside business. So I'm always on is my concept of life as well. I know you guys are always on because you need to be always contacted in order to always establish business. So that's where society is leading today, is that always on approach. So the connection speeds, the demand for that is increasing. And there are several ways that we can increase or accommodate this demand. So if you go to the next slide, the wireless home networks, this creates accessibility and convenience for devices through a router. How awesome is that? Right from your home. Okay. It allows for multiple devices to link to the internet without having to battle with one another. Wireless data sharing, information flow between devices. It's clear, it's quick, it's concise. You're able to view videos and television shows that you stored on your laptop that you may have downloaded at an earlier date. You're able to go back and watch those things to your wireless home networks. And then, best benefit ever, you're able to enjoy your wireless services where you can go ahead and stream movies like Netflix. Makes it clear, quick, and convenient. You don't have to go out to Redbox and purchase movies anymore. You can just go ahead and get this wireless home network established. So what I did for you on the next slide, I kind of wanted to break down the concept and show you on this flow chart where the IP devices are filtered through a router that connects IP devices with either other devices or home broadband connections. So how cool is that? So one little device takes IP devices, connects with other devices or home broadband connections. I hope this flowchart kind of helps you out, break down a little bit. Next slide. Delivering services through broadband. So, I just highlighted the 5 key services through broadband on this pyramid here. From the top to the bottom, digital subscriber line, DSL, cable modems, satellites, fiber cable networks, wireless technologies. So for the digital subscriber line, I thought that was pretty awesome because it allows access over regular telephone lines with service being provided from various local carriers. So for example, I think this is the most basic, services provided through the broadband. You remember your Ethernet cord, you kind of just plug that into your telephone cord, you kind of do a little dial-up, and everything comes in a split second. The most used DSL is the asymmetrical, and with that, it allows faster downloads over the uploads. And think about it, what do we do more? We download things. We download photos, we download homework assignments from Liberty, we download things that we receive from potential or current customers. If you're an entrepreneur, we're downloading videos, we're downloading television shows, we're downloading a lot of things. We don't necessarily really upload things. So a very small community that uploads, because they're networking, doing all that great stuff. But asymmetrical is the most common DSL right now. For your modems and your satellites and your fiber cable networks, I thought the cable modem was pretty interesting to know that the internet service and your cable service can come through the same line. How awesome is that? Through the hybrid fiber and a coaxial cable. Standard cable that allows data, internet and cable data to transfer through the same transport system. More people are leaning more towards that right now. But we're starting to see a slight more increase in the DSL, 57%. So while the cable modem is still an option, DSL is taking a bit of a lead by at least 10%. Then you think about satellites. For those of you that live in the middle of the, rural area, or I'm sorry, rural area, or back in the middle of the woods or anything, you don't have as many options. You don't get the DSL, you don't get the cable modem. You kind of have to stick with the satellite, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because with dial-up, you can actually get faster broadband connections. So that's awesome for you guys. And then you have your fiber cable networks, which is awesome too. It's just another way to establish your broadband through fiber cables. Then wireless technology. One thing I wanted to highlight for that was the broadband over power lines. I thought that was pretty interesting, because at one point in history, our society thought it was a great idea to actually, transport broadband through cable lines, because of course at one point cable lines ran from the outside all the way to the inside of the home. So they actually attempted to apply that to filtering broadband through the power lines. But of course that actually is more obsolete now, and it's not necessarily being used during this time period now. So it's just not really relevant right now. The one thing that is relevant is the wireless technology. Everyone's using Wi-Fi. It's quick, it's convenient, it's everywhere. It's Starbucks, it's the airport, it's home, it's work. It's widely used. Next slide. I just want to touch quickly on residential gateways. Pretty cool topic. I wanted to give a flowchart to show how the home network is actually considered the same cycle as a residential gateway, and how they share the processes. And you can kind of use both to make it convenient for individual users to have access to the broadband. Next slide. The National Broadband Plan. I wanted to touch on this because I thought this was a very interesting point in this chapter. So the primary purpose, I'm just going to go ahead and read off the slide so I can have, word for word. Create high performance America, a more productive, creative, efficient America in which affordable broadband is available everywhere, and everyone has the means and skills to use valuable broadband applications. This is just awesome. It's just showing how America's taking steps in, making a more advanced technology and staying ahead of time by providing access to affordable download speeds and internet access. I thought it's a great step towards our fast and newly established society. We're growing fast. Technology is booming. We have to stay one step ahead. On the next slide, I just provided the 6 goals for the broadband plan, and pretty much to sum it all up, America is pushing forward to allowing everyone to have access to broadband services, affordable, convenient, and readily available. Okay, because again, business, you pay your bills, you're doing everything through the use of the internet. So they're trying to make it easier and affordable. Every neighborhood, every individual person, every workplace has at least a certain limit of access to the internet. If you look at the next slide, the broadband plan's impact. They're looking forward to getting to a point where we have 99% of the nation's schools will have high-speed broadband access. I think this is major because we all know that our future are our children. Ensuring that schools are receiving 99% high-speed broadband access is simply saying we are instilling, raising, breeding, and producing technological savvy children for our future, because technology is going to continue to be implemented in our everyday lives, and we have to keep them one step ahead of the game. So this goal that they've established is pretty much going into effect right now. They're currently at a 75% solution, and I do foresee us hitting this in about 2022. 2017 at the latest, the way things are going. Curious to see what your thoughts are on the broadband plan's impact on society. Factors to watch with dealing with broadband and home networks. Spectrum auctions. I thought this was pretty awesome because it mentioned how the FCC is actually 2014 was their first actual real auction, but the difficulty with that is there aren't many that are willing to give up their unavailable spectrum usage. Okay, they're not using their spectrums in different countries. There's still space, unused data being used, but instead of sharing it with another region that's using more data, they're holding off on it. They're wanting to save it for themselves for a later date. So we have a lot of unused data, and it's not really even across the board. Another thing is usage-based pricing. We got to watch out for that because eventually we don't get things under wrap. If more users are not willing to give up their unused data, usage-based pricing is going to be more of an effect. Every little thing that you use you will be charged for. And let's think about our cell phones. The unlimited plan that I have right now is awesome because when I didn't have the unlimited data plan, I was always paying the extra charge, the extra fees because I'm constantly using data, constantly downloading, constantly on the internet, constantly sending emails. So I think that this is something to consider in our personal lives as well, not just as a region, but in our households. We should kind of monitor the amount of data that we're using and use it for a good cause. And if we're not using a certain amount, go ahead and lower your data package and allow that space to be used up by someone else that needs it. Next slide. So it brings me to my question. Hopefully this sparks a great conversation. Hopefully it makes sense to you guys. But as I read chapter 20, I kind of, I wondered, currently in the U.S., 80% of broadband services are provided by cable companies. What if usage-based pricing was implemented by cable companies? How would this change impact society? Do you think this will help preserve unused spectrum space, as we just discussed? There are plenty of users that don't want to auction up their unused spectrum space. How do you think that this would prevent that issue if ever, cable companies, which are providing 80% of broadband services, are charging based off of usage? I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. I had a great time putting it together. I hope these PowerPoint slides were a benefit to you, and I look forward to your feedback. Thank you. Have a blessed day.